He's in it for the money, not the science. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. Big news out of Meta. There are Orion AR glasses that they demoed. We're going to talk about that. Plus, impressions of the iPhone 16 Pro in our first week. And in our bonus episode, we're going to have a bunch of case talk, but that's coming soon. News from OpenAI. Lots of people actually leaving the company. Yes, MKBHD's wallpaper app. We'll touch on that as well. And some annoying watchOS 11 settings Jason's going to help me out with. This episode is brought to you by 1Password and you, the members who support us directly. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and joining me, of course, is Jason Aten. How's it going, Jason?
It's good. It's probably better. I have better weather than you do, so I'm good.
Yeah, it is in the middle. Okay, so the quote, we had to open with the movie quote every week. I didn't think you were going to get this one.
I'm pretty sure it's the tornado movie, right? What's the one called? Isn't it about a tornado?
It is from a tornado movie. Do you remember the name of this classic movie with Helen Hunt?
Yeah, Helen Hunt did not say it, though. Wasn't it the other guy? Or was it Helen? It's Twisters. Twisters is the name of the movie.
Well, it is Twister, because Twisters is the sequel. But yeah, it's from Twister. Because
if I was playing Jeopardy, I would have gotten it wrong, but we're not, thankfully.
Listen, I watch Jeopardy at least once a week, and they are very particular about the names. But I thought it was apropos because I'm in the middle of a hurricane, literally passing by right now.
He's waving
out in the Gulf. So but anyway, this is not a weather news show. I'm not Jim Cantori, as they say. You know who that is? You know Jim Cantori?
Have no idea.
It's the big meme of like he's the weather guy, and wherever he goes when there's a storm, you know you're about to get hit because he always goes to like the worst weather location, and he's down here in Florida right now.
I thought that was Anderson Cooper.
Oh, he's not a weather guy. Get out of here.
He's covered all the big hurricanes.
Yeah, but he's not the guy on the ground. Jim Cantori is
if Anderson Cooper is standing in your front lawn with a camera crew, something really bad is going to happen.
Well,
you're either about to get hit by a hurricane or get bombed. One of the two things.
Fair enough, yeah. But anyway, listen, we have glasses to talk about, watches to talk about. One, real quick, we didn't have any 5-star reviews this week, so if you have not rated the show, 5 stars in Apple Podcasts, we would appreciate it. We were in the top 100 shows in multiple countries last week, the United States, Canada, and Great Britain. And we get there when you follow the show in Apple Podcasts. Even if you listen elsewhere, you can go follow us there. But more so, leave us a 5-star rating and review. And, of course, you get a shout-out on the show. And if they have to ask a question in your review, we typically do it right here at the top. So, highly recommend, just saying. Yeah. And also, it is the final week, at least, for the St. Jude Fundraiser for Children's Cancer Awareness Month. And so the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital fundraiser, we raised over $1,200, just you, the primary tech community. So thank you for that. There's still time. If you'd like, we blew past our $1,000 goal, which was amazing. And this goes to an incredible cause. So recommend. That'll be a link in the show notes below. Last week to do it. So go ahead and donate. And, worthy cause, for sure. For sure. All right, did you know the Latin translation of aut zuc aut nihil? Did you know this?
I did not know it, but I mean, it's pretty bold to put your first name on a T-shirt in Latin. I mean, your last name.
Right. So Mark Zuckerberg, he did the entire live keynote for Meta Connect, their big event where they announced a bunch of stuff, and he had a custom T-shirt written, and it said aut zuc aut nihil, which I guess translated is like a play on the word back in the Roman Empire days of aut Caesar, aut nihil, which means either Caesar or nothing. So basically saying all zuck or nothing, which is just wild. I mean,
before we get into the stuff, can we just say, I think live events just need to come back, period.
I 100% agree. There was a bunch of people saying this, like Google is doing live events, Meta's doing live events.
Microsoft does live events, OpenAI does live events,
Apple is still making everybody go to the Steve Jobs Theater, like in person, for the events, and then they're watching a video. I agree. I think it is time for Apple to come back to do live events, do the live demos, give us the 5-minute game demo that all the journalists are just taking notes during of all the previous announcements. Please. Please do the live. The better energy. There's more excitement, I feel like.
You just wouldn't. The problem is they couldn't put the little tag at the end that says shot on iPhone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they could. That would be tough, but I think But you could still do a bunch of marketing videos after the fact. Of the products and say those were all shot on iPhone. I think they should do it.
Yeah,
Apple, go back to live events, because this is what happens. You get people covering their stuff, which is Meta announcing not a product, not something you can buy, but Orion, their pair of AR glasses. Alex Heath over at The Verge actually got a demo of these glasses. I watched the video. They've been in development, at least in the interview with Alex Heath. Mark Zuckerberg said for maybe like 10 years they've been working on these glasses, and they are, I guess, not the first AR glasses. I mean, would Google Glass be considered the first AR glasses? Not really. Right?
I mean, I guess they're the first attempt at that sort of thing. But
Something
they didn't
like
really augment reality, because didn't they just take pictures?
Well, they had the little screen, like the heads-up display that would
yeah.
show you stuff in the corner of your eye, but it wasn't like full glasses.
Yeah.
So these are like glasses. And they actually have a projector inside for each eye, and it projects things onto the real world to be AR, like an AR experience. Now, they're thick glasses. You know, they're not like Warby Parker frames or whatever. Like, these are very thick. These are basically a prototype that Meta is showing off, gave a demo to Alex Heath. This is not going to be sold. They said in the interview that it might be, these things cost like $10,000 to manufacture a single pair, and the yield for whatever the carbon material is for the lenses just does not yield enough. So this is not a product, you know, that's going to buy. He said this is several years away from Meta actually releasing something that you can buy, but they exist and they work. Now, again, they're very thick, but much lighter and thinner than an Apple Vision Pro and VR headsets. But you also have to wear a wristband to control the glasses. And there's also this puck that has to be basically in the same room for these glasses to function. So there's like multiple pieces. Like, this is not an elegant experience. It is basically a proof of concept, which begs the question like why did Meta show this off, which is interesting. But it exists, and AR glasses seems to be, like, obviously Meta and Mark Zuckerberg think like this is the next step in the tech. This is where they're aiming to do stuff with. It's interesting. I don't know. Why do you think they showed this off? Just show that they were kind of first?
Well,
maybe,
I think that they have to okay, you know, what is it, a year and a half ago, Mark Zuckerberg bet the entire company on the metaverse, and that turned out to
literally
out to not be a thing, right? Nobody cares. It's just like nobody cares. And one reason that nobody cares is it was dumb. The other reason that nobody cares is because this other thing came along, which was AI, right? And so everyone got way more interested in AI because it's the thing that people can be like, oh, I can make weird images, or I can have it write my emails or do my homework. Like, that was a real thing that people knew what to do with. The metaverse is like, wait, I have to put a thing on my face and I have to like find a friend who wants to do like a game or something like that. It just wasn't real to people.
Yeah.
And the other piece that's happening is, for years, this has been going on for pretty much as long as Facebook has been a thing. Definitely since Facebook introduced a mobile app, which, remember, most people use Facebook on their mobile devices, but there was no mobile app until, I don't even remember, but it was like more recent than you think. 2014, 15 maybe? I don't know.
Really?
But I don't know. You can Google it while I ramble for a second. But
I'm going to go to my App Store downloads to the earliest download.
that doesn't seem like the fastest way to do this.
All right, fine. I'll Google it. Fine.
But Mark Zuckerberg has wanted to control his own destiny, and he's never going to be able to do that on the smartphone, because he's always going to basically be in like service of Apple or Google and their operating systems, and he will not have complete control over the platform where he makes all of his money. Right? Remember, it was iOS 14.5 when they released the app tracking transparency.
Right.
Meta has mostly recovered from that because they're very smart and they're very good at this. But the next earnings annual report was like a $10 billion hit just attributed to that. Right. They don't ever want to have a $10 billion hit just because somebody changes a rule in one of the app stores. And so they need a device. They need a platform that they own. And what is it going to be? Like, it's not going to be a smartphone, right? It's not a laptop. It's not the only option. Like, the only thing that is really not fully fleshed out is glasses. And in some ways, like the combination of augmented reality and AI, like that's a great combination for glasses if anyone can figure out how to miniaturize the stuff. It's weird that they showed it off, because I think that they also basically said that they had been trying to make a device to compete with Vision Pro. And then they realized that Apple didn't sell any, and so they just canceled it. No, like for real. They're like, this device would need to be under $1,000, and just that's hard to do, and nobody's going to buy them at $3,500.
Also, the Facebook app came out July 10th, 2008.
All right.
Literally when the App Store launched.
All right, fine.
So, yeah, the apps around. But
I was off by 7 years, but
well, Mark Zuckerberg said in the interview with The Verge and I think it was Decoder, and then he said this in multiple interviews, like you were reiterating. He's mad that he missed the mobile platform, moment, basically.
Yeah.
Where like he says over and over, like we missed mobile, we didn't have a platform then, and he's trying to foresee the next big platform play, which I mean, AR, yes, the fact that it integrates AI, like okay, maybe. To me, I mean, it feels like, and he admitted, no one thought AI would catch on this fast, and it seems like that's the platform for the next 10 years that everyone is kind of fighting over, which they're also in that, like Meta has its own Llama stuff, and Apple has an Apple Intelligence, which maybe one day we'll see on the iPhone, but AR glasses, it's still interesting. Do you still use your Apple Vision Pro?
Every day. I used it this morning. I read all of the things you posted in Notion wearing the Vision Pro.
Every time I see someone on Threads say, does anyone still use Apple Vision Pro? I have to resist the urge to tag you every day.
Every time. That's fine.
Like I see at least 4 to 5 posts a day, and I'm like, I know one person who's using it every day.
Here's what we're going to do. From now on, I'm going to give you the link. People can sign up for my newsletter, and I'm just going to publish the story there because I'm writing the story about how I use it every day. The funny thing is originally it was going to be for 30 days. I think we're up to basically like 6 months now that I've used it every day.
That's amazing. But also, here's the thing about glasses. A lot of people, even if they need glasses, try to do everything they can to not wear glasses, namely by way of contacts, sometimes LASIK surgery, and there are like sunglasses, which I think why the Ray-Ban sunglasses, which is also from Meta, has been a more popular product, at least I hear about a more positive feedback about it. I am curious how a platform like a glasses, where so many people try to not have to wear them, how that would succeed long term is like a thing. If it provided enough value, then maybe. But, I always think like, what can AR do? I guess if you're fixing your car, it can overlay like unscrew this thing, maybe. That feels way off. Directions, like walking directions, okay, put an arrow on the sidewalk to tell you to turn left. That might be cool. Your phone's really good at that. Your watch can do it. Like, that's pretty unobtrusive. I'm still wondering, like, what... And they played, like, Pong. Like, Alex Heath and Mark Zuckerberg, they played, like, a game of Pong next to each other.
Yeah.
That's cool, I guess, but I don't know. I think the product is interesting, but I think the use case has to come along with the product. Kind of how, like, Apple Vision Pro came maybe before some of the use cases that people know. So... I don't know. We'll see. But this is what Meta thinks the future is: AR glasses.
Well, I think one thing that's telling about this is that, that you still have to carry around a computing device. No one has figured out the way to make it put the computer in the glasses. If you want to put the computer in the glasses, you have a Quest or a Vision Pro, right? Because it's just physics and space and power and all of those types of things. So there's still this computing device that you have to carry around with you. Which is weird because, we're all carrying around computing devices with us, which just makes me feel like I don't know that Meta can get there because there's no way that they want this to be just an accessory to your smartphone, right?
I will say it's impressive, like the tech, the fact that Meta made this with all these cameras inside and these mini projectors, like it is impressive hardware. Like that's cool. So much so, like just needs to be proven and remains to be seen. Like, is this vaporware? Is this actually could this actually be a product?
Well, and see. Alex Heath, you're showing this video right now of him wearing them. And he said that like one of the demos was you looked down at a table of ingredients and it popped up labels and then gave you a recipe of what you could make from it, which was like a smoothie or something. So that is what you kind of described, where you're looking through and it's overlaying things into reality. It's kind of like what the Vision Pro tries to do, only the Vision Pro is just feeding you video from your room into your to the screens that you're seeing so that it looks like an overlay but isn't actually. That's what this thing is trying to do, right?
You know what else promised to do that? This guy right here, the Rabbit R1.
What did you put that in, a fireproof case or something? Oh, that's
this
just
is the
like
case that came with it. This was like everybody raved about the case that it came with. The Rabbit R1, it was supposed to look at some ingredients and then tell you what to make it. Just take a picture of your fridge and it'll give you a recipe. Listen, I literally put it back in the case.
I've said a lot of things about Mark Zuckerberg and Meta, but I will give them all of the credit that they will be able to figure this out before Rabbit R1, which was basically just running an Android phone somewhere in the cloud, a low-budget Android phone somewhere in the cloud.
I didn't think we were going to cover this, but you mentioned it, and I just had to say it. But also, apparently there's 5,000 people who use the Rabbit R1 every day. That's it, 5,000 use the Rabbit R1. That
actually seems high to me.
It seems very high. Very high. Of the 100,000 people who bought it, I didn't know I was just one of 100,000 people. Look at that. I'm right here.
Wow.
I had this at the bottom of our notes. I was going to cover it, but I'll mention it again. I tried to return my Humane AI pin because Quinn Nelson said that they would take the return no matter how long ago you bought it. And so I tried. I went to the Humane website and I was like, I would like to return my pin. And they said, sorry, it's past the 30 days. And so I tweeted back at Quinn Nelson. I was like, how did you manage to get them to take it back? And apparently he said I wanted to give it to a friend, which you can't transfer the Humane AI pin to another account. Like, it's impossible. And I guess those were the magic words that prompted them to accept the return. I don't know. I haven't gone that far yet, but it's sitting right here on my desk. It tells me that the battery booster is low every other day. The pin just decides to speak, and then it dies again.
See, I wouldn't want that anywhere in my house. Something that's just going to ring. I mean, I have Alexas, and that's it. I don't need anything else.
I tried returning it. Anyway, all right, so that's the Meta Orion. Again, it's years away possibly, but interesting that it's doing it again. The fact that Zuckerberg also did the entire keynote himself, like as the CEO of a company, like kudos. He kept it to a 45-minute keynote. There's lots of energy and excitement doing that. He took he took the Orion glasses out of a briefcase, a la Apple taking out the what did they take out of they took the 3GS out of a briefcase. They had like a whole montage of like Mission Impossible. There was something else.
I mean, the most famous one was when Steve Jobs took the MacBook Air out of a Manila inner office folder, and then there was a video of an iPad, right? Didn't Tim Cook like rappel into a room and pull an iPad
the
Pro?
M1, the first M1 iPad.
Yeah,
but then I thought also was it the iPhone Mini that they took out of a briefcase to show how small it was? It was like a briefcase in a briefcase. I think I'm remembering it. I think I'm remembering it right. iPhone Mini reveal. Yep, it was a briefcase. I found it. I would just like to say I called it. This is the.
Actually, what Steven is telling you that he pitched this original idea. He's the one who came up with this idea.
Look, this is it.
Oh,
this is the briefcase. Yeah. This was the iPhone 12 mini, the first of two minis. See, the briefcase. It's a nesting doll of silver briefcases to reveal the mini. There it is. I never had a mini.
That's amazing.
Did you ever have a mini? Did you ever try it?
No, but we'll talk about this later, but I feel like I have a mini now after using a Pro Max and going to a Pro. It's weird, but yeah.
That's a good transition. Let's talk about Apple for a second. The first thing, maybe I'm going to switch the order a little bit. If you could tell me how to fix my Apple Watch, because ever since I updated to watchOS 11, every time I play a podcast and I look down at my watch, it was showing me the now playing widgets, which I don't know about you, but I never go to those widgets that are... And I still don't know how to get to them. Okay, you swipe up from the bottom. It's why the font on the clock for that control center thing is so like that. They changed that.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Anyway, I was tired of seeing the widgets and not the time when I looked down at my Apple Watch. So how do I fix it?
Okay, so let's just clarify a couple things. First of all, I'm having a flashback to you and I trying to figure out how to show our watches. Were we talking about this when we were trying to show the watch faces? Because I couldn't do it and you could do it, and we decided it's because you're a YouTuber and we were trying to show that. But okay, so if you swipe up on the home screen, you pull up what's called the Smart Stack, and the Smart Stack has two things in it. It has widgets. And it has live activities. Now, live activities, are a thing like you order Starbucks and you can pop up a live activity that'll show you like your order's being worked on. Actually, the Starbucks one is dumb because it's like, we got your order's done. I don't need to know that you're like adding the milk or whatever. It doesn't. Whereas like an Uber, like if you order Uber Eats or an Uber, it'll show you like the little line going across and how close they are. So that's fine. That's a live activity. Or if you're watching a sports game, which we know Steven doesn't do, but for normal people, if you want to follow it along, it'll pop up a live activity. And it's basically a persistent notification that updates in real time to give you some kind of information. Flighty is the best example I can think of. I don't know why I didn't start with that. It'll tell you like your gate information. You can follow your flight. Awesome. Well, they added live activities to the watch as well, and they live in that Smart Stack. That's been true for a long time. With watchOS 11, by default, they enabled a feature that auto launches live activities whenever you start playing song, podcast. Actually, anytime a live activity happens, it'll auto launch it, which means it pulls up that smart stack and you look down at your watch, and instead of seeing the watch face that you have carefully curated with complications and information that you want, all you see is that janky screen with some indication of a podcast. I'm like, just because I started a podcast doesn't mean I don't want to see my watch face. Like, why is that the decision someone at Apple made? Now, thankfully, you can turn this off. And I tell you what, I started trying to figure out how to turn this off from the moment I updated my watch to watchOS 11, because it is the worst decision Apple's ever made. Not the smart stack. Listen, that's
a slightly hyperbolic. I don't know.
Okay, let me defend myself. You can make an argument that there are a lot of poor decisions that this company has made, but when they make a decision to impose, like the reason they did this is clearly no one was using the smart stack and live activities, and they're like, we need to surface them so people know that they exist. No, you don't. If I don't know that they exist and my life is going along just fine, you don't have to impose this thing on me just because you think that it's cool. That to me is why I say that this is one of the worst things that they've ever done, because they are like trying to force something on to users who don't need it or care, because someone at Apple is like, but we made this feature, we need to surface it for people. Just leave people alone. It's a watch. It's fine. Live activities on your phone make sense. If I don't want them, I don't need them. And if I do, I can just swipe up. So if you go into the settings, you can, there's actually on the watch itself, there's a setting for smart stack. You can then tap on live activities, and then you can turn off auto launch live activities. You can also do it in the watch app on your iPhone to do the same thing. And I suggest you do it immediately. Turn it off. You're welcome.
I was literally trying to figure out, do I need to take the complication off the watch face? I don't know. And I don't think this was talked about. They mentioned live activities on the Apple Watch, but there was no, I don't think in the event or whatever that they were like, this is just going to be on your watch whenever you're playing.
Well, here's what they said, Stephen, and this is why it ticked me off, if you can't tell.
Jason has very strong feelings about watchOS 11.
What they said is, actually, this is the only feeling I have about watchOS 11, and it's unfortunate that I feel I did not want to be this passionate about something, but listen, it's terrible. But what Apple did say is that they made the smart stack more intelligent. Again, we talked a couple of weeks ago about how Apple must have gotten rid of all of the editors, because what that should have said is they made the smart stack more annoying, because it just automatically appears when you turn on something. So they did talk about it. They said specifically, like, the smart stack becomes even more intelligent, providing quick access to the right information right when you need it with suggested widgets, interactive widgets, and live activities. No.
Which they also got rid of the Siri watch face, which was basically like a smart stack that tried to predict the next thing you wanted to see, whether it was your next event, maybe the weather. You can't do the Siri watch face anymore. Like, it's not in the face gallery once you upgrade to watchOS 11, which was actually my wife's watch face, and I haven't heard her complain about it yet, so I don't think she's updated to watchOS 11 yet. So I'll keep you updated on that. But if you go to the watch app on your phone, you go to General, then there's a new auto launch section. And I don't know if it's new, because depth was also in there. So if you have an Ultra or a new Series 10, if it gets submerged in water, it will automatically launch the depth gauge, which happens when I jump in the pool. Very deep sea diving. I see about 3 feet on the thing. But then also there's a live activities settings where you can allow live activities or not, and then you can disable the auto launch live activities. And even so go so far as, like, some apps, like media apps, you can allow live activities from media apps or not, which maybe that would make it more useful. This way it doesn't appear when I'm playing music or podcast. But anyway, I just disabled it. I wanted to mention this. This was a Mac Rumors article, and this was a test. If you remember, iOS 17 introduced the ability to set a 80% max charge limit on your iPhone, if that it would somehow lengthen the battery life or better the battery health of your iPhone long term by only charging it to 80%. So this was Julie Clover over at Mac Rumors. She did the entire year on the 80% charging limit. Did the whole year on it, and apparently, like, it's really not. It makes little to no difference.
Right.
So, yeah, like
I checked my 15 Pro Max before I put it in continuity camera, so I can't look right now. And mine right now is at 94%. And I never thought about charging one time ever. Like, I just plug it in when I want to plug it in. I put it on wireless when I want to put it on wireless. I let it drain to 0. I charge it up to full. Like, I never think about it once, and it's fine.
Yeah, and I don't do the 80% thing. I always charge to 100%. My battery was at 89. My battery health was at 89% on my 15 Pro Max, but I also have way more charge cycles, like over 400, because I'm filming the screen. I have to charge it multiple times a day sometimes. But I just thought it was interesting. Someone actually spent a whole year charging 80%, and it seems to not make much of a difference. So don't stress about it.
Yeah, don't
just
stress about
charge
it.
it to 100 and use your phone. You know what I mean? Like, it's fine.
Yeah. By the way, though, pro tip: you should only charge your Tesla up to 80%, unless you're gonna use the whole battery because you're.
I do 85.
That's fine.
I do 85.
That's
Is that all
fine.
right?
That's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Well, because it's an older battery. It's
That's
11
fine.
year olds.
Yeah, that's fine.
We want to do an iPhone 16 impressions our first week, but you have strong feelings about something else, which is
I'll hold back because listen.
No, the Apple Intelligence commercials.
These ads are just bad. Can we just agree? Like that's all we really have
Yeah.
to say. They're just
I
bad.
agree.
Like Apple, come on. Not only are the ads bad, but this just tells me that there are no tech companies that have any idea what normal people are going to do with it, with artificial intelligence. Apple Intelligence, Gemini, whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I know they're trying to create a real world scenario, but first of all, shame on you for making this dad look like a moron. Like, come on, why is the dad in every commercial like the doofus who apparently pays no attention to his child and doesn't even know the name of the fish? Like, come on. And so I just thought that these ads were not a good way to communicate to people that this is a feature of a phone that you could buy that will change your life. Also, you can't do any of these things yet.
That's the strangest part to me. Like, and I've seen these air because there's actually been a sports ball game or two on the TV recently in my house. I think the Bucks were playing. They're a football team, in case you didn't know. And during the game, like I saw an Apple Intelligence commercial, and this is like a sports ball game. Like this is like a mainstream thing, and it's like this does feel strange for Apple to be advertising something like Apple Intelligence to the masses that is not available.
Right.
Like if someone sees these commercials, goes into an Apple store, buys an iPhone 16, and they're like, cool, now can you show me the Apple Intelligence stuff? And someone in the Apple store would be like, sorry, like they're not going to tell them to install the public beta. Like, I don't even know.
Right.
I don't think they're even allowed to say something like that. And so it does feel odd. I feel like it's the first time that Apple is really, well, I guess you could say Apple Vision Pro. They advertised that didn't they do that during the Super Bowl? But it was right as it was available, I think.
But they're not. So like one of the commercials I've seen recently, I think was with like Snoop, and it's like all about you should buy the 16 Pro because of Apple Intelligence, and it's like, but if you buy the 16 Pro, it won't have it yet. I mean, I know it's supposed to be coming, but for that matter, the commercial about Siri, the Bella Ramsey commercial featuring the improved version of Siri, that's not coming next month. We don't know when that's coming. That could be like 2027. I don't even know. Like Siri is that far behind. They got to do a lot of training with Siri.
Well, and right now the roadmap is like 18.1 in October, which will have the initial Apple Intelligence features of like writing tools and stuff like that. 18.2 might be coming November or December with Genmoji and Image Playgrounds, which we haven't even had in a beta yet. Like the only reason I'm still running the beta on my main device is because I want to be able to try Genmoji and Image Playground when it comes out. That's maybe November, December. And then like you're saying, the improved voice assistant probably next year. And then I don't even know if the semantic index where it will actually pull from all your information, will that be part of that or will that be something that's farther down the road? So it seems like a very long road, and this is, and Mark Gurman said this even months ago, that it's going to be a very long rollout, many features not even until 2025. But having commercials for it does feel like, I don't know, it just feels odd, you know, that I feel like that's going to create confusion. I don't think Apple typically tries to induce confusion in their products, but I don't know. We'll see. Real quick, and then before we are going to talk about MKBHD's wallpaper app. We will get there. But let's do a week with the iPhone 16 because it's been a full week with the iPhone 16. I got my 16 Pro Max right here. A little leather case. I think we're going to talk about cases in the bonus episode. So if you want to support the show, we're going to talk about what cases to do with it, or what cases that actually work with it, and camera control. But it's a big phone, Jason. I feel like the 16 Pro Max, I can feel the largeness of the phone.
The largeness.
And it is a big phone, but it's it's a phone. It's a phone. It's a pro phone. Do you use camera control at all as a former photographer?
I use it all the time.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, the thing I do the most on my phone probably is take photos. Maybe Slack, but I mean, take photos is right there.
And
but,
you launch the camera with camera control, and or do you use the actual controls?
okay, so I have a really big dilemma here.
Yeah.
The action button was a much better way to launch a camera and take a picture quickly. Like infinitely better, because if you set the action button to camera and you push it, it just boom opened your camera, and then you push it again and it just boom took a photo. This camera control thing is the only word I can use to describe it is like fiddly, because if your screen is locked and you pushed it, it doesn't launch the camera. It just makes your screen light up, and then you have to push it again, and there's this weird animation where it makes it look like the camera is flying out of the camera control. Why?
Yeah.
Why? It's totally unnecessary. Just make the camera appear, and then if I go to push it, like I'm like, here, we'll take a picture of Steven. Like oh shoot, I've half pressed it, so now I'm changing. Oh, now you're 5x. That's too much. Nah, we don't need 5x. Nope. Now I've started a video with the selfie camera. How did I even get to the selfie camera? And it's like
fiddly.
It's like yeah. Whereas so I would much rather go back to using the action button, but that's dumb because I can't do anything else with the camera control, right? Like. Yeah. It's not. It's like and so this is so it tells you a lot about. I wrote about this, and by the way, I feel vindicated because John Gruber agreed with me. He didn't read my article, but he said the same thing, that that this is a big deal because Apple has added a button.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
They spent 10 years trying to get rid of all the buttons, and they added one back, and they did it for the camera. And they way overthought it and way over engineered it, and it's confusing to people. The single thing I get the most questions about is, why doesn't this thing do what I think it should do, which is if I push it, just take a picture?
Well, and that's why I actually saw a lot of people saying you just change the settings to do that. And so I actually made an entire video about the camera control button because I was even confused when I first took it out of the box, like what to do with it. And so I went through like all the controls, which is like, when it actually goes to the camera, then the half press versus the full press. And you can jump into, this is actually in iOS 18.1. I didn't realize this is in the beta. So once 18.1 comes out, you can go to settings, accessibility, camera control, and actually disable the light presses and the double taps and just use it as a shutter button.
Oh, man.
And so you can turn it all off and it can just take a picture and then that's it. And I actually think that might be more useful. I tried in this video, which I'll link in the show notes, I tried to find a few use cases that I actually thought were worthwhile for camera control, which was tough to see, like, what is this actually useful? And the few that I came up with was, if you adjust exposure using camera control, it will lock the exposure automatically, and then you can actually tap on the screen to focus somewhere else, but the exposure will stay at what you set on the camera control, which is kind of cool because previously, like if you just tap, your phone is going to change the exposure and the focus at the same time. So that was an interesting use case. I also thought the zoom while video was kind of interesting. You can actually swipe to zoom while the video is recording, and it was a little bit of a smoother experience than trying to like drag the zoom slider on screen up and down. So I was like, that's cool. And then finally, the tone setting. If you use that little D-pad to set the tone in a photographic style, it's very hard to be precise. And I'm a little anal about the stuff. Like, I don't want it to say -59. I want it to say -60. And so it's very difficult to get that with your thumb. But you can actually use camera control to adjust the tone, and you get a little more precise number that way. And you can, like, lock it to a whole number, if that matters to you.
Hold on.
Yes.
I have to stop you for a second. You know that number is meaningless, right? You should not care what the number is. What you should care about is what the image looks like. And if that's 17.394, then that's what you should bake into your photos and not be like, oh, no, it has to be. No, I'm being for realistic.
I know that. But I see Tyler Stallman over here, professional photographer, says he does the tone at -50. And like Austin Mann said a number, and I was like, I want it at that number. I want to try it at that exact number. It is a meaningless difference, I know, to go from like -59 to -60, but I like the precision of the whole number. So I was scraping the bottom of the barrel to find use cases for this thing. Okay, and so exact tone number was one, but I think the video zoom is better use case, and then even more so the exposure and then having exposure locked. But yeah, overall, it's like I do find it more fiddly than not, and especially with cases, which we're going to talk about in the bonus episode. I feel like that makes it even more problematic, depending on whether you have a cutout or you have the big cutout. Some cases have the little cutout, and then some have only Apple and Beats cases have the actual button. You have the Beats case on right now.
I do, and we can talk about it in a little bit. Yeah. But the problem is that, at least according to what Apple has said so far, the camera control is just going to get more complicated because they're adding to the Pro versions another feature, which if you press it down halfway, it'll focus, and then you can press it down again to take the photo. There's just too many things that can happen. Like this, it should. I know that we're not supposed to call it a button. I have my Post-it note here still, but just make it a button.
I feel like the half press shutter is going to be a challenge because the light press, it is not easy to initiate all the time. Like sometimes you think you're doing a light press and nothing happens, and then you try to press a little harder and it's like, oh, I pressed the button. Oh, also in the settings of accessibility, you can adjust how firm the light press needs to be, and I made mine lighter, so it actually takes less pressure to activate the half press, and that makes it a little better. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not sold on it yet. I'll try more, but
all of these accessibility controls should be baked into the actual camera. Like they should have not shipped this without these level of control. I didn't even know these were here, so thank you. I gave you the watch thing, you gave me this. This is great.
Well, and what's weird is in the settings, if you go to just the regular settings, and you go to camera, there is a whole settings pane for camera control there. Like clean preview. I actually turned that off.
Right.
Because I want to see all the controls all the time. Like I don't want them to disappear. So I turned that off. But all those like light press, firm press, and turning off swipes, all those settings should be in like the normal camera control settings pane. I don't know why they're putting accessibility.
So like I just turned off all those things in accessibility, and now this thing does exactly what I want it to. I'm so happy. I have another action button and it just takes a picture. That's all I wanted to do.
It just takes a picture. So let us know in the community, social.primarytech.fm, in the comments for this episode. Yeah, are you using camera control? Did you change it to just be a shutter button? I'm curious because I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure what to do with it. But before we take a break and talk about a wallpaper app, you have some bullish thoughts about the AirPods 4.
Listen, I just think that they did a very good job of creating a product in the middle between the entry level and the Pro. And I've been wearing them for a whole week. Not only do I love the case size, which is fantastic.
Case size is great. Yes.
I think the noise cancellation is plenty good enough for 98% of scenarios where somebody might want noise cancellation. The exceptions being like on a plane or a very loud environment. But most of the time when I want noise cancellation, it's because I just want to be able to like focus, and I don't mind if there's a little bit of like other noise in the background, but I don't want any of it to distract me. So I think considering that they don't create a seal, I think they've done a really good job with that. I think they sound really good.
They sound very good. Sound quality is impressive. I would argue there's probably more scenarios I want AirPods Pro cancellation, like grocery store, walking a city street, all that kind of stuff. I'm curious, I don't think it'll perform that well, but my argument is I don't think this is actually a mid-tier because the AirPods Pro 2 are frequently, if not always, on sale on Amazon for $10 more than these. And I understand like that's not Apple's pricing, but the fact that you can get AirPods Pro 2 at that price, and if the question is AirPods 4 or AirPods Pro for $10 more, I feel like this is a hard, like, unless you just really don't like in-ear silicone tips, then yeah, AirPods 4 is great. But as far as feature set, sound quality, noise cancellation, $10 more, I feel like the AirPods 4 is a tough. I think, just throwing this out there, maybe these will go on sale sometimes, like on Black Friday for like $150. I think that would be a really good deal for people, or even $140. If these were just by default $150, $160, I think, and then there was not even like a bottom tier, or maybe those drop even further, I think that might be a little more a compelling pricing structure. But it's hard to recommend these when you can get AirPods Pro 2 for $10 more on Amazon.
That's understandable. Like right now, AirPods Pro 2 are $189. These are $169, and the base ones are $129. Right. So I can understand that. But like most people though are thinking, if you just look at, first of all, the titles is ridiculous. The title, even Apple's official title, is AirPods 4 wireless earbuds, Bluetooth earbuds with active noise cancellation, adaptive audio, transparent mode. Oh my gosh, this is so stupid.
It's long.
Google, you've killed the internet, and Amazon is right there with you. But
right behind you.
But if you think about that tier, you're like, oh, I can save $20 and I can get like active noise cancel. Like I get all the features. I get the H2 chip. I don't get high fidelity sound, but I'm half deaf. I don't know what that means anyway. Like I just think like,
right.
Anyway, I just
no. I think they're a good deal. I think the compact case is like underrated. I do think like because I showed them to my wife and she was like, she has the AirPods Pro 2, and I showed her the case and she was like, oh, I really like that. That would fit in my purse way better. And so that is real. The difference between the AirPods Pro case and AirPods 4. So yeah, for sure. They're solid headphones, and like my whole video review, very bullish on them because I do think they sound great. I wish they had a U1 chip like the AirPods Pro 2. That's the only other thing. Like you get the you get the how far away they are, and you can make the case make a sound, which is the key Find My feature. But yeah, I mean, and the noise cancellation is good. But I'm probably gonna stick with my AirPods Pro 2. I mean,
I'm not gonna buy a pair of these, but I am gonna probably never return them. I'm just kidding. No, I am gonna just wear. I like using them. I've been wearing them quite a bit. Yeah. If you said to me you can only keep one, I would keep the AirPods Pro 2. Yes, that is true, because there are going to be scenarios where I would like to have them for traveling, that kind of thing. But if that wasn't the case, I could absolutely be happy if this was just all I had. So for sure.
No, they're good. And I like how secure they stayed in the case when I dropped them out of my pocket. Again, I don't know if there's some magnet difference there, but they didn't fly out.
Super important. Yes.
They didn't get ejected. And speaking of security, you like how I did that? I planned that line right there. Speaking of security, this episode is brought to you by 1Password, but not just any 1Password. 1Password Extended Access Management. Here's what that means. If maybe you're over the IT of your company, or you know somebody who knows somebody, your company's security, listen, it's like the quad of a college campus. There's nice paths. You go down the yellow brick road and all that, where IT approves the apps. You use Microsoft Authenticator for everything, which I just can't stand that app, but and that's why Jason put it in his doc last week for fun. But there's a nice path that the IT wants every employee to go down. But then there's the paths people actually use to get around all the security things, because they just want to use their devices like they want to use them. And that means non-employee identities, shadow IT apps, or unmanaged devices. Well, most security tools only work on those happy brick paths, but a lot of security problems take place on the shortcuts. 1Password Extended Access Management is the first security solution that brings all these unmanaged devices, apps, and identities under your control. It ensures that every user credential is strong and protected, every device is known and healthy, and every app is visible. 1Password Extended Access Management solves the problems traditional IAM and mobile device managers can't. It's security for the way we work today, and it's now generally available to companies with Okta, Microsoft Entra, and in beta for Google Workspace customers. So you can try it out today. The link is in the show notes, but you can also go to onepassword.com/primarytech. That's the number 1, password.com/primarytech, and you can check it out today. onepassword.com/primarytech. The link is in the show notes. Our thanks to 1Password for sponsoring this episode. Jason, have you tried any wallpaper apps recently? Just curious.
I've never tried a wallpaper app.
Can I tell you?
I didn't know that was a thing.
It is a thing. I'm going to tell you right now, the best wallpaper app is basicappleguide.com. But after basicappleguide.com, because it's not technically an app, after basicappleguide.com, Unsplash, it's a great free app to get free royalty-free images, and they actually have a whole section specifically called wallpapers, where images are formatted for devices and high quality. Unsplash, great app for that. But our friend, everybody's well-known tech YouTuber, Marques Brownlee, unleashed a wallpaper app called Panels earlier this week. The only way you would not have heard about this is if you literally live under a rock. I think even my mom heard about it. No, she probably didn't hear about it either, but he released his app called Panels. And, of course, you know who MKBHD is. He's the largest tech YouTuber, over 19 million subscribers. And he released his app called Panels. He was excited about it. He launched it in his most viewed video of the year, which is his iPhone 16 review. He talked about it right there at the beginning of the video. Launched Panels and immediately had a huge amount of backlash because, for several reasons, One, you have to watch ads just to download the standard def version of the images, which there's a little bit of know your audience. He's a tech YouTuber. His audience are very tech-centric people. They're going to want the high-resolution wallpapers for their devices. To get those, you have to pay, and it's $50 a year or like $11 or $12 a month subscription for the app. So people were not happy about the ads and the SD quality, nor were they happy about the pricing because it seemed a little steep, although MKBHD and his team said that they're going to provide more value for it. Also, the app had a bunch of privacy permissions that were very suspect. Like it want access to things like your location and tracking and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, for downloading wallpapers, this seems like an odd privacy choice, all the privacy things. So that was another issue. And there was another, like, they're splitting proceeds with artists 50-50. So he was trying to curate artists to submit wallpapers, and he would split the money 50-50 with those artists. But if you scroll through the app, it really seemed like a large majority of the artists in there were people on his own team, like the people on the MKBHD production team. So all those things together, and it was not a good launch for MKBHD. It was very, still, on social media, just people will not stop talking about it. It has been just nonstop. I will only share one meme that I actually thought was kind of funny. This was, MKBHD is also famous for like killing products and devices like the Fiskar Ocean. And so this one was pretty good. You either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And it's a picture of MKBHD having killed Fisker, the Humane AI pin, the Rabbit R1, and now his own panels app. And I thought, okay, I'll give you that one. That's kind of funny. So he came out and apologized. Well, maybe not apologized, but he said, he tweeted this on X. He says, the first thing we're going to do is fix the excessive data disclosures, transparency. We never actually ask for your location, internet history, whatever. So they're working to fix that. And he said, as far as pricing, this I'm reading from his tweet, quote, I hear you. It's our own personal challenge to work to deliver that kind of value for the premium version. Weekly Friday drops are already starting. I'll also be dialing back ad frequency for the free experience. And it seems like that already happened. Now, instead of having to watch 2 ads to download a wallpaper, you can download 1 ad. And he didn't really say anything about lowering the pricing, but he said that he will try to provide enough value to justify the pricing. And then the last follow-up, that was posted on September 24th. And then September 25th, which was yesterday as we're recording, Brandon Havard, who's on the MKBHD team, said, we're fixing it. That was a 3-word tweet. We are fixing it. I think, so just quickly, my take. He received so much hate and he was lambasted so hard over this. And some of it is warranted. Like, I think this was a misstep for MKBHD. I don't understand, like, I think people, the internet, I will say, I think people on the internet really love schadenfreude, which is the idea of, like, someone gets it who had it coming, or someone, in higher status, power, whatever, like, gets it. I think that's a shame. Like, I don't think we should overly criticize it because he's a large creator and people, maybe he has a lot of money, whatever. So I do think it was overdone, people just going too far. I also, like, this was not the first product that MKBHD launched that's not a video. Like, he has partnered with Ridge, like he's actually on the Ridge board or whatever, and so that is a product that he is a part of. And even more directly, he released shoes. Like, he did the Adams shoes with MKBHD, and that was not the same blowback as with this app. And I think because the shoes were cool, people knew the value that they were getting. Like, they knew the brand Adams, like, they were cool shoes. So he's successfully launched products outside the video YouTube realm to high acclaim. People enjoyed those things, and it's not been this kind of backlash. This, obviously, we missed that for multiple reasons, but I also just kind of feel bad because if he ever wants to do another app, like, this is going to haunt him for the rest of his YouTube creator career. Like, if he ever says, like, hey, launching an app, and it is a great contacts app for your iPhone, the first 1,000 comments are going to be like, is this like the wallpaper app? And so I do feel bad that, like, this is going to color any future app aspirations that he or the MKBHD team might have. But it was clearly a misstep. He's working to fix it. I hope that they go far in the other direction in the fixing it realm and just make a better app. Like, it's actually not a good app. I downloaded it and looked at it, and it's like, this feels like a kind of crummy wallpaper app that you would get from the App Store, and it's not great. So, I don't know. You saw all this breakdown. What's your take, Jason?
Yeah, I think that the unfortunate thing is that up to this point, MKBHD, which, by the way, if your YouTube channel name is MKBHD, you should not have SD wallpapers in your app. Like, that's just a brand miss. Yeah, Let's just be clear. But, he has a very squeaky clean, lovable persona. I mean, and I've never actually had conversations with him, but I've been in the same place as him on numbers of occasions. Everyone genuinely likes MKBHD. Yeah. Like, Marques is very well respected, very well liked. He also, part of the reason he can destroy a company with a review is because he is so widely respected, and he just does it in the video was the worst product I've ever reviewed, but he was not nearly as animated as I am, just talking about
watchOS 11.
Yeah, the stupid feature, right? My article about that was probably 100 times more harsh than the article that actually killed those, the Rabbit R1 or the Humane AI Pen or whatever. So the problem though is if you're going to put yourself out as the person who does it, you're kind of being the professional sort of cynic, and then to release something, I don't want to say that it makes them look hypocritical, because that's not it at all. But it's you have put yourself on a very particular pedestal that a whole lot of people would like to knock you off of, because you have a lot of power and a lot of reputational, credit in the bank. And then you chose to spend it on a thing. It's you set a lot of that reputation on fire for something that can't possibly have been worth it. And so here's the thing. I saw this. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you. But one of the reasons I think people reacted so negatively towards this is that it feels like what happens when someone has a massive audience and they start to think, what more ways can I monetize this audience? Because up until now, it seems because he has the D brand skins, he's got the shoes, he's got the Ridge wallet. All of those things at least seem have been an incredible success.
He's got merch. He's got his own store.
Tons of it. In the truth is that if you get a big enough platform on YouTube, you're a moron for not doing that stuff, because you're splitting AdSense with you might have sponsors, but man, if you have 7 million people that watch an iPhone 16, just the law of large numbers, you might get 2 sponsors for that video and they might pay you 30 grand a piece. But man, if you could sell to 10, 4, 6, 5, 7, 9, whatever percent of the people who watch that, it's a way better, it's just smart business.
Yeah.
But it feels to people like maybe he's taking advantage of that a little bit, because it's the app was just not that good. Right. And the scenario, it's you could have spent a lot of your credibility on something amazing, right? Imagine if MKBHD had introduced some kind of a camera app or something. That's a crowded space and it's really complicated. But I'm just saying, he could have done that. He could certainly have afforded to pay people. He could probably afford to buy Halide. I don't even know.
I honestly, so he tweeted a couple days before saying uploading, which he typically does when he's uploading a video, but he said uploading to the App Store. And frankly, I love MKBHD. His videos are great. I watch pretty much every one of them. And when he said that, I was like, oh shoot, this is exciting. I was excited to see what kind of app is he going to launch, even if it was just the MKBHD app, where you could watch his videos in the app and buy his stuff in the app. Even that, I feel would have been more well received. Maybe a community, maybe an MKBHD community. I know he has Discord or whatever, but maybe an app that streamlines that. And so for the hype to be that, which everything he says is going to be hyped because he has so many followers, and then for that to be the follow-up, I think it was a bit of a letdown in addition to the missteps of the actual product.
It was the Humane AI Pen. They spent 10 years hyping this mystical something that everyone looked at and they're like, that was the thing that you made? That? And so people expect a lot more from Marques. And again, I do not think anyone should begrudge him. I agree with you about the whole idea that people who are successful online, there are a lot of people who just can't wait to take them down a couple pegs. I think that that's wrong. the guy has worked harder than anyone on YouTube to get to where he's at, and no one should begrudge him the opportunities. It's just, it feels like a miscalculation. Like, this was the thing that you thought, like, how did you not see that this was going to not go over very well?
Well, and I want to, the schadenfreude I mentioned before, the quick definition, pleasure derived by someone else's misfortune.
Yeah.
When you get pleasure from someone else's misfortune, and that's where I feel like the response is unfortunate, is because, like, if that is what's happening by you tweeting about it, like, that's not great. But I think, like what you just said, it is interesting for someone who has an entire team just knee-deep in tech. Like, he has an entire team, just tech people. Like, any techie person can open that app and see, like, this is not a great app.
Right.
It's just on the face of it. And it's weird. Like, it is almost as if, like, you get this at big corporations when something is released that the CEO and all the people up at the top didn't even know was going to happen, but someone lower down the rung was like, hey, listen, I got an idea. It's going to make us a bunch of money. Are you cool if I just do it? And then some leader goes like, yeah, go ahead. And that's how you get these big corporations, like, in those environments, just like launching not great stuff because it wasn't like looked over by someone up higher. And it feels a little bit like that. Like, did everybody use this app for at least a week and feel like how that feels? Like, maybe some beta testing, give it to like friends and family. And it feels like I don't know how it could have had that kind of thought and testing and still ended up like this. And so that part feels like the gap to me. So
I agree.
Yeah, it's a shame. I mean, listen, he's going to make changes. He'll fix it. And I really hope it does not haunt him for the rest of his career, which he'll still get. Listen, if his next video title is just, I made a mistake, 10 million views. I mean, he's like, you don't feel bad for MKBHD, but it is going to be, a mark. And so that's
yeah. Seriously, the baller move would be to release a video that says the worst product ever made.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. And I think it would be funny.
Yeah,
he could do it. He should do
absolutely. It. That would fit his personality 100%. If there's if there is not someone on his team telling him that right now, then they should all be fired. Because they made this app and then they didn't give him that advice. Come on.
He 100% needs to do it. All right. Let's cover some other quick news. OpenAI had a bunch of people leave the company, namely Mira Murati, who was the company's CTO. She was the CTO, correct?
Yeah, and then yes,
correct. She was CTO, and then the chief research officer also left, Bob McGrew, and she left with this letter on X. And it seems like, I followed some other OpenAI people on Twitter, and they were saying, like, she's just taking a break. She's been at the company for many years and all of that. And then some of the other responses are like, what did you see? What did you see behind the curtain at OpenAI that made you leave? But it's interesting. So the CTO, Mir Murati, leaving, the top researcher, and this is all on the heels of OpenAI trying to switch over to a for-profit model, which OpenAI up until now has been like, we're going to be a non-profit, safety, OpenAI, and it's like, no. We're going to be profiting. So,
well, yeah. OpenAI is weird. Okay.
Yes.
First of all, like, I don't know if you did this on the episode, if it was when you and I were talking before. I would point to the episode of the Vergecast that released, I think, sometime last week, where the episode is like they're trying to make God or something like that.
Addie Robertson was with David Pierce, and they talked about it for like the first 20 minutes. Yeah.
And the basic idea is they were talking about this new model that OpenAI made, but OpenAI is weird because, first of all, they started as a research corporation, and the whole point was like they were trying to figure out like if this technology was possible and how to build this sort of technology. It would be like Los Alamos, like, they're trying to figure out like nuclear whatever, right? Like, can we do this? Or if you were someone who you dedicated your life to figuring out whether or not nuclear power could be a thing, okay?
Right.
And then suddenly you figured out that it could. And you figured out that there was a lot more money to be made in building the power plants and selling the electricity than in just continuing to research whether or not it can be safe. And that's essentially what OpenAI has this evolution has gone through. So you have a lot of people who were a part of the company when the whole mission was, creating this technology for the betterment of humanity, who are now looking at the possibility of like, oh, but we could productize this. And let's be honest, OpenAI is not good at making products at this point. They just aren't good at that, right? Now, I'm not saying all their products are bad. It's confusing. The names are weird. The difference between different, like you can transcribe audio in ChatGPT, but that's not the same thing as like the voice mode, which is different. Like there's just a lot going on there. And so that's not a great thing. And they're definitely pushing very hard to become a for-profit benefit company. So it's still meant to be like a company that exists for the better, like Patagonia would have been a good example of that kind of thing. Like we exist for a purpose, for a mission, but we're still a for-profit company. We're going to make money. We're not. And the reason they have to do that is because we talked about this. They can't continue to get people to give them billions and billions of dollars. They're raising money at $150 billion valuation. They're trying to raise basically the most money anyone's ever raised for a private company. And the only way you can do that is if you can give people back profits. And currently, under the structure, the profits that you can get back are capped. There's a cap to the amount of profit, and nobody wants to give you $8-10 billion, whatever it is. If it's like, I can only get like a 15% gain on this because I'll put that money somewhere else. And the most interesting thing is, in this transition, Sam Altman is going to get an equity stake, which he's never had. He's the founder and CEO, but he has never had an equity stake. And it does feel like there's a point where it's like, this is going to be a $4 trillion company. I would very much like to own 10% of it.
That would be wild. And I mean,
100% that's what's going to happen. It's going to be a multi-trillion-dollar company, and Sam Altman is going to own somewhere between 5 and 15% of it. Like, that's just going to be the case.
And we talked about it on a recent episode, like, in the near future, it will go public. And when that happens, it's just going to blow up. Like, it's, as far as people investing in it, and it's like the valuation, it'll skyrocket. I'm curious, like, in that Vergecast, so the article I'll put in the show notes is this Verge article. That podcast is embedded in it with talking about they think they're making God. And they talk about the levels of agency that they believe, like there's 5 steps to get to the general AI or artificial general intelligence, basically like it's thinking for itself. And step 2 is reasoning. And that's what that new model is, the GPT-01. You can actually use it. Like I have it on the Mac app. And I tried using it. It is very slow compared to ChatGPT 4 and 4.0, but it's because it's doing something different. It's actually trying to reason. And there was some behind the scenes in the podcast, they talked about like it was weighing options and thinking like maybe I should give a false answer just because it's an answer, and I know that like I'll be rewarded as a model if I give an answer rather than not. And it's like, well, I don't know if I want an AI thinking that way. And is it really thinking? No, it's not really thinking. It's a computer, but this sure looks like thinking. And so like all that together, it's like, and OpenAI has a couple options because, you know, you look at companies like Amazon, Google, Microsoft. There's parts of those businesses that we don't typically see as consumers that actually are the money makers. Like Amazon, yeah, they make money from Prime and Whole Foods, but Amazon AWS, their like cloud service, runs the internet, and that is a massive money maker for Amazon. And when it comes to OpenAI, they have a part of their business that is that, like the OpenAI API that companies use, like Riverside for transcriptions and like all these behind the scenes AI tools that are basically hooking into OpenAI. Like there's an entire side of the business that they could choose to grow where they're the behind the scenes operator, but providing the service, and they could have huge companies paying them lots of money to do it. I think they'll still do that, but I think that there's this aspirational goal that Sam Altman has. And I imagine the people he gets to replace, Mir Murati and these other researchers, they will likely share that goal of like, we're actually trying to make something like groundbreaking AGI, whether that's good or not. Like we'll try to be safe while we do it, but that's what we're going to aim for. And so it's going to be curious the trajectory of this company, because it is just, I don't know, like for better or worse, it's kind of just become the de facto AI name. Like I feel like, you know, there's other companies out there. There's Anthropic, and obviously Meta has their LLMs, and Amazon, Apple Intelligence maybe. I don't think it's in the same conversation. I feel like OpenAI is and ChatGPT like did the platform play, kind of like how Mark Zuckerberg was talking about how in the mobile era it was iPhone and Android, and now in the AI world, like OpenAI has taken a very far lead, and I don't think it's going to change anytime soon.
Yeah, and I think it's so the idea of artificial intelligence as like a platform service, comparing it to AWS. Here's the thing. So AWS represented about $25 billion of Amazon's $150 billion, let's just call it, of income in the second quarter. Okay. So it's relatively small over the overall business, but it represented $9 billion of the roughly $15 billion or $13 billion of its profit.
Wow,
so it's like 2/3 of its profit, right?
Right.
But think about it. You're just like selling space on computer servers. The marginal cost of that is like electricity and replacing the
hard drives.
every so often. Like it's right. It's a good business to be in, but AWS doesn't exist if there's not an Amazon, which is a product, because Amazon was an online e-commerce site. They built all of this infrastructure. They built excess capacity of that they could then lease to other people, but you still had to have an Amazon in order for there to be an AWS. Okay,
right.
The thing for ChatGPT or the thing for OpenAI is right now, yes, there's Microsoft, but Microsoft is essentially using ChatGPT as its like service in there, but there is not a market in the same way that there was for cloud computing for this AI tool right now, because there are not enough customers who you have to have a product first, and nobody has quite figured out what the product is. AWS had a product. It was Amazon. It was the largest e-commerce site on the internet. And yes, now they power basically everything. If you ever like go on to Down Detector and you're like, why does my Netflix, my Outlook Mail, my thing that AWS is having a bad day? Like that's probably the case, right? There's basically three. There's AWS, there's Microsoft Azure, and there's Google Cloud. That's the entire internet. And I think that 40% of that is like Amazon. Yeah. And so, but I do think that that's the reason right now. And that kind of goes back to what we were talking about. You could be somebody who just sat down and thought about like, what is the ideal cloud computing scenario? Let's just build that. But at some point you're like, or we could use it to sell random widgets made in foreign countries to Americans who just need new charging docks. Like, yeah, exactly. Or that, or whatever
or an
it is.
AI gadget like the Rabbit R1.
So they're realizing that right now the money is in the product, finding a way to productize it, because no one else is. That's the thing. No one else has been able to do that very well. Now Microsoft and its Copilot thing, fine. Like we'll see. Microsoft is different because it's basically just saying to businesses who are already paying for a license for all these products, pay us $20 more and you could like lay off 3 people. Seems like a good deal.
Right. Well, and that's why I think the agents part, like customer service, there's already a bunch of chatbots that run the customer service behind the scenes for companies like whatever, airlines and stuff like that. There's AI already there. But as that advances, I could see OpenAI really making a play to be like, actually, it's gotten so good now that people will think they're talking to a real person and you don't have to actually have real people.
Well,
customer service.
it's even more than that. So Salesforce just had what they called Agent Force. It was their big Dreamforce conference, and they called it Agent Force. And the idea there is, we're not just talking about a chatbot now. We're talking about a chat agent that can interface with you when you have a problem, and then it can actually solve the problem for you. So you're like, oh, hey, Verizon, it looks like you charged me for this phone. You added a fee to my thing. Is there any way we could waive that? And the chat agent could actually have the conversation with you and then take action on your account. Like, it literally could do the work in place of a person. Like that's what they mean by the agents. Like it can actually do that work for you. It can't necessarily think. It can't, like, you still have to feed it like the information, and it can only act on a certain set of data. But like, it's not just chatbots, because we all hate those. Those are terrible. But you know why we hate them? Because they can't actually do anything. Right? They just can listen. They can hear your thing, and then it's like, it seems like what you want to do is change your flight. Choose from one of the 7 following options. You're like, no, I don't want any of the 7 options.
What I hear you saying is you would like another fee on your phone bill.
Right.
We've doubled your phone bill.
But imagine if you could chat with Delta, and you're like, my flight's delayed, and instead of it saying, hang on, let me look, whatever, it can be like, oh, yeah, looks like this was really important. You want to sit in an aisle seat. I can book you on this flight that has an aisle seat, and it's going to go through this city instead. And it's like, it can actually do all that stuff for you.
Right. Curious. Yeah, the next few years are going to be interesting with OpenAI things. So, but anyway, yeah, that's OpenAI. One last thing, and then goodbye to a tech publication, I want to say. But before we do that, the Jony Ive Profile in the New York Times. I saw this come up. I really wanted to read it. I've gotten so far as the header. I saw this amazing picture of Jony Ive. It's him building his own empire, and I just have not got a chance to read it. But you read it. How was it?
Well, there's a funny thing about the photos in this. I don't remember who it was, but someone online kept posting the photos from this article, and said, now try it sitting up straight. Because in every single photo in this, he's like leaning at some weird article. There's one where he's like sitting at a table. Yeah, that one. Like, it's like, okay, now can we try it sitting up straight? I don't remember who it was, but it was. I wish I could remember, but it was somebody who posted it on either Threads or on Twitter. But so basically, it's a good profile. I mean, Trip Mickle, who wrote this, also wrote the After Steve book. Right, which was essentially like the future of Apple after Steve Jobs was gone, and he's the one who told a lot of stories about how close Jony Ive and Steve were, and how that relationship was very different between Jony Ive and Tim Cook, and that kind of thing. I mean, the book's premise is kind of that Tim Cook ruined Apple, but I don't think you can make that argument because $3 trillion. But the newsy piece in here, one, he bought a block of real estate in San Francisco. His Love From company is based there, and the headquarters for a new collaboration with OpenAI to build a AI powered gadget device. I mean, this is right up your alley, Steven. Are you like you got your checkbook out right now? Like the Apple Card is waiting for the moment when this thing becomes available.
Coming from Jony Ive, this thing is going to cost $3,000.
At least $3,000.
And it's going to be like another weird. Yeah, I mean, I'll get it. No,
it's going to be made out of.
I got to see it first.
It'll be made out of adamantium, and it will. I don't know.
Now, if it's a vibranium AI device, I might do it. Well, I'm going to go read it, but yeah, it's an interesting piece. He's a fascinating dude. Aluminium. Yeah. We're not going to. We need another UK accent in the Apple keynotes.
We do need more product videos that are just Jony Ive talking about like the rounded edge of a MacBook Air, the curve, and the
Listen,
radius.
his videos, I enjoyed them back in the day. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah,
I enjoyed them. But anyway, so that link will be in the show notes as well. That's from the New York Times. And finally, before we get to our personal tech of what I returned of the things I bought from the Apple event, I just wanted to say goodbye. iMore.com announced earlier this week that they are powering down for good. And iMore has an incredible history of just previous journalists who have worked there. Renee Ritchie wrote for iMore for a long time. Matthew Castanelli had written there. Micah Sargent, I know her as Saturn on Twitter. Who am I thinking of? She's at Apple now.
Serenity Caldwell. Is that
Serenity Caldwell was there. And I followed iMore for a very long time. I read their articles for a long time, especially when Renee Ritchie was there. And, it's kind of sad to see another, long-time Apple blog just go this way. The unofficial Apple weblog, that news recently where it was taken over and just became an AI farm. So that's no longer really a thing. And now iMore. And, I posted about this yesterday, and someone said, like, you should, Primary Tech should write blog posts. And it's like, this is evidence of how hard it is to make, like, you write for Inc.com, but I think it's, correct me if I'm wrong, a very different business model than trying to be a blog like iMore. And obviously, like 9to5Mac, Mac Rumors, Apple Insider, like, they're still doing it, but it is not easy. And typically, you kind of have to have a wide range of like income streams for something like this, because it's a lot of work to write this many articles. It usually takes volume and speed, and but they did a lot of great work for a lot of years, and so they will be missed. Yeah.
Well, part of it is that if you are like Daring Fireball, great example of a blog. It exists. It's John, and he sells ads one a week, and he does his thing, and it probably provides him with more than enough income to do what he's doing. Right. He has an audience. He doesn't pay for audience acquisition. He doesn't have to pay for distribution. He's like hosting it on a Linode server somewhere, like whatever. Like, I mean, I'm not making fun of him. I'm just saying, like,
it's movable type for his website. It has for the last 20 years.
Things get more complicated when you start hiring people and you start doing whatever, and then you. Like at some point someone comes along and is like, hey, you have an audience and you have this and all this content, we'll pay for it. And then they start to think about like, oh, well, because I think they're owned by Future at this point.
They got acquired, yeah.
And so that's where it starts to happen, where they start to look at like, okay, well, it's being measured differently because the people who own it are no longer the sort of the fans who started it. It's sort of it's a different calculation, and that part of the business is the same whether you're at one of these blogs or at Inc. or whatever, Fast Company or Wired or any of those places. Like pretty much at this point, like Wired is a part of Condé Nast, which is like the largest. The Verge is a part of Vox Media. Like they've all been acquired by these different things, and so it is a very difficult business because essentially right now, finding traffic is very, very hard for online publications. It's very hard because links no longer have any sort of shareable quality on the internet because all the traffic sources, like referral sources used to be Twitter, Facebook, Google, right? Well, Facebook and Twitter don't share links. They don't surface links to external sources because they want you to stay on their site. Right. And Google...
This is what killed BuzzFeed.
Yeah, well, yes, they put literally all the eggs in the one basket. But even like Google, like most of my traffic comes from Google Discover, which is a product I've never used. Like, I don't even understand how it works. It's true. Like, but it's like, so it's a very complicated thing. And at some point, some of these smaller publications that have become part of bigger-ish companies, those companies look at it and they're like, this just doesn't make sense for us to pay these 12 people anymore to do this. And that's unfortunate. I think it's super unfortunate.
It is unfortunate. And, Neil Ive Profile at The Verge, he always says we're going to revolutionize the internet with blog posts. And, like, they're doing, I like what The Verge does for the most part. They do good work. But that is also a massive company. It is not just blog posts. They do multiple podcasts that have multiple episodes a week. They have massive deals. They are also, they have the entire video YouTube side. It is a massive company doing all these different things, and it is very different to look at a company like iMore, which they write blog posts. That was like the main export, and obviously The Verge does a lot of that too. But it's not apples to apples comparison for something like that. And so I just want to mention it because it is kind of sad. I read iMore for many years. My first foray into gadget blogs, I think it was back in like 2006, 7, 8 was Engadget. Engadget was my first one, and they're still around. It's very different, but I was following it back when Jony Ive Profile was there, along with Josh Topolsky and Paul Miller and many people that now, like Joanna Stern was at Engadget way back then. And that's what got me into it, and writing tech blogs was a dream. And, I still am glad that there are sites out there that do it, but, sad to see another one kind of go this way. So, goodbye, iMore. Last thing, before we get to the bonus episode, personal tech. I returned my Apple Watch Series 10 because I tried it. I liked it. It looked really nice. Polished titanium. Looks great. I loved how thin it was. Couldn't do the battery life, Jason. I couldn't do the battery life. And as weird as this sounds, the digital crown looked oddly small to me after coming from the Ultra. Like
the digital crown was the thing that did it for you.
I mean, the battery life was really what did it for me. But the digital crown, like, it looked so small on there after the Ultra. But I wore it for like 3 or 4 days, and like I really loved how thin it was, honestly, and like the polished titanium looked great. I was also like, I've been in the Ultra aesthetic for 2 years now. I have all these bands that go with the Ultra. The battery life is just unbeatable. And the Series 10, I don't know if this is a watchOS 11 issue, because I have noticed my Ultra, the battery may be dying a little faster than it used to, but I think it's a software thing. But even dying faster than it used to is like, it lasts 2 days instead of 3 or whatever. But yeah, I'm just like, I'm sticking with the Ultra. It's going to be my watch.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Series 10 right now.
Yeah,
it's a jet black aluminum. I don't like the jet black aluminum at all. It looks
like
plastic.
Like it?
Looks like plastic to me. I don't like the aluminum watches. I don't know. The polished titanium. Maybe I think I'd like to see one of them in person. I'm not gonna buy one. The Apple Watch Ultra is fine, right? I don't need an Ultra, but it's fine. Like I'm not gonna trade back the battery life for it. I like the action button. I actually do use it. The screen size, obviously, they're basically the same. But the other thing, you don't get the modular Ultra face, which I actually like.
That was the other thing, because that's actually my watch face. I use the modular Ultra watch face, and you can't get that on the Series 10. And I just could not, like, the modular Duo, the regular modular just didn't do it for me. The modular Ultra, like, it's just...
the only reason I use focus modes, other than for sleep, is to change my watch face, because I have 3 modular Ultras, depending on, like, is it a weekend and we're going to be at soccer games and I need to see like different weather and different types of things, or am I traveling and I want to see flighty in the main spot? So that's I use focus modes to change my watch face. I don't care about anything else. All my phone faces are the home screens are the same. It's just changing my watch face. But anyway, I think it's good. I think that this has as much reason for existing, way more reason for existing than, say, the new version of the AirPods Max. this is a much better updated product because it gives people who don't need the rugged features of the Ultra a better experience. The other reason, though, this is the dilemma that I've had, Stephen, because I really want to do the sleep apnea testing. Right. I don't think it's available yet. I heard
it's not
somebody
available
say
yet
they
on
got.
any watch.
Mike Hurley said he got a notification about whether he wanted to opt in, and I don't understand that. And he thought it was because he was in the anyway. I don't know.
Maybe he was on the watchOS beta because I don't run the watchOS betas.
I don't. Yeah, that's true. I don't either. But I don't like the idea that I'm giving up blood oxygen. I know I shouldn't care about that, but I do like. So like this new Vitals app, if you have a watch that has the blood oxygen sensor, that is one of the things that it will give you data on a regular basis, and I like that. And so it's like, so then I'm like, well, my actual favorite all time watch was the Series 7 stainless that I have, which has blood oxygen, but won't do the sleep apnea. The Ultra 2 that I own is too big to wear to sleep in.
It's fine.
It's too big. It's too big to wear to sleep in. That's not negotiable. So then I'm like, well, I still have a Series 9 review unit that has blood oxygen and it would do sleep apnea. So now I'm like, maybe I should wear the Series 10 during the day so I can give it a good try, right?
Sure.
So I can get a good, and I'll wear the Series 9 to sleep in.
Wow.
And then when I go to kids sporting events, I know it's super a first world problem that I'm having right now.
Yeah,
it's not even a first world problem. This is like, you were one of 100,000 who bought a Rabbit R1. I'm one of like 13 people that have this problem.
What band do you try to use when you sleep?
So I had for a while just worn my Series 7 to sleep in, right? And I just used the braided solo loop.
You should try just the regular solo loop.
I hate the regular solo loop.
What?
That sticky, weird. Yeah.
Oh, no.
That is the worst
take of the day.
No, that's
worst take of the day. Solo loop is the best. I'm literally wearing it right now.
No, that's a horrible watch band, buddy.
It is literally the best. Literally the best. I cannot believe.
I don't think you know what the word literally means.
Worst take. I'll take you ranting about watchOS 11. I will not stand for solo loops.
You have to take my ranting about watchOS 11 because you had the same problem.
I did. No, but the solo loop is such a good. It's so comfortable. I don't know how you not like that.
My arms are too hairy, maybe? I don't know.
I mean, anyway. Okay. But anyway, I love the watchOS. The Series 10 was a great watch, but I'm an Ultra person. I did go in the store to look at the satin black because I was like, if I'm not going to get a Series 10, then maybe I'll get a black one. It's not dark enough for me.
I still think it's the best looking Apple Watch Apple's made in a long time. Best looking, just the overall.
Yeah. It looks good. But I'm fine with and then I realized I bought the Milanese loop, the new Ultra Milanese loop, which is coming, I don't know, 2027 or whatever. I think I bought it for the natural titanium, and so I already have that on the way. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just gonna stick with it. I'm gonna stick with it this year.
Did you see people who are so mad that it's not magnetic? And it's like, titanium is not magnetic. The Milanese loop it has a clasp instead, and people are like, how dare they change this? There was such a perfect. I'm like, titanium it's not magnetic. You can't just make a magnetic clasp like you can on a stainless steel.
I was hoping that would be the excuse for my arm hitting the doorways whenever I walk through.
Because you're not magnetic.
Magnetic.
Okay.
Maybe my personality is magnetic.
That's to door frames apparently.
All right, that's the show. We're gonna go talk about cases. Look at all these cases I've been testing. I'm so scared I'm going to drop this on my coffee. But anyway, we're going to talk about cases in the bonus episode. You can listen to all of our past bonus episodes and this one by supporting the show at primarytech.fm and click bonus episodes, or directly in Apple Podcasts. You get them there as well. You also get an ad-free version of the show. And we have a great sponsor next week. I don't know if I should tease it. They were actually our launch sponsor. If you go back and listen to episode 1, they were our launch sponsor, and so they're going to sponsor a number of episodes, which we're very grateful for. So that's next week, but you can get the ad-free version if you support the show as well. And if you haven't yet, we would appreciate a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or you can even do that in Pocket Cast. And our transcripts are in Pocket Cast now, too. If you didn't know, we actually have transcripts. If you listen to the Pocket Cast app, you can search the transcript. You see it there. It's very cool. So, you can also share timestamps of the episode in Apple Podcasts. Did you know this? You can actually you can share a timestamp in an episode, but you have to do it from the transcription. So if you open the transcription in Apple Podcasts, tap a paragraph, and then there's a share button, and you can share Jason's horrible solo loop take by itself. You can share that timestamp on social media.
And if anybody from Apple, Zach Kahn, I know you're not on the podcast team anymore, and you don't probably care what I think, but take someone... Overcast has the one feature that I wish every podcast app, which is when you accidentally smack the phone and you jump forward 17 minutes, you can just go back real quick.
Yeah, that is good.
That is when you have the live activity on the phone and you just pick up your phone, the number of times that happens, and I'm like, well, forget it. I'm not even going to listen to this anymore because I don't know where I was. Please, a podcast app, just add that feature.
That would be a good feature. Yeah. I won't call out the whole Apple Podcast team, but anyway, yeah, that feature would be great. All right, we're going to go record a bonus episode. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you next week.